Welcome to your latest industry recap. An airline is close to shutting down as it faces financial turmoil. The A321XLR has been delayed at a certain key operator, and a new aircraft order, or should I say, recent aircraft order, has formally been confirmed. Wanna begin there? With Korean Air confirming a mammoth deal for Boeing commercial airplanes, with the 777X and 787 families included. The South Korean airline, you may recall, initially announced its intent to order these two aforementioned series on day one of the 2024 edition of the Farnborough Airshow back in July, after a lengthy period where we saw reports emerging that they were keen on these planes. The massive aircraft order consists of 20 of the 777-9s, part of the 777X series. It also extended its commitment to the 787 with an order for 20 high-capacity 787-10s. The purchase of the 787-10 does also include options for 10 more units, bringing the order total up to 30 should it wish to activate these later down the line. At the same time, you may recall that initial order came during the same period where it was actually celebrating the launch of the 787-10 for the first time into scheduled passenger operations. Confirming the MOU represents a staggering USD $32 billion commitment to the future of Korean Air during one of, you'd argue, its most important periods in company history. While aircraft are included in this deal, the total I speak of doesn't just include aircraft. The airline has also secured additional engines worth multiple billions. The latest purchase confirmation comes at a very important time for the South Korean-based company, as it prepares to integrate Asiana Airlines fully into its brand. Securing the necessary approvals already, the pair are moving ahead with their consolidation efforts at an incredibly important time for the aviation sector in the country. The creation now of one of the largest aviation companies not just in South Korea, but Asia and the broader world. As part of ongoing preparations conducted by Korean Air, it has announced many aircraft orders, ranging from this finalization of the Boeing deal to even going as far as securing more Airbus A350s, which, remember, was a type not actually operated at Korean Air, but is an aircraft type that Asiana Airlines has adopted quite heavily and relies on it for their international flying. Those planes to be carried over to Korean Air, and by them purchasing the 350, they familiarize themselves further and commit to this plane. Regulators right around the world are always going to scrutinize consolidation efforts because they fear how consumers and competitors will be treated if a deal was to progress, and previously these two South Korean-based companies had obtained approval all but from the United States. While approval is certainly one crucial pillar, and now it does have that from the US, the hard yards are now beginning as your new Korean Air looks to be formed, with increases in the overall fleet, a complete revised rebrand, employee changes, and general assets being moved around. We're also going to see changes to the airline's day-to-day operation, with more consolidation to occur across the low-cost divisions. It's an interesting future ahead, and one certainly to closely watch. Over to Wizz Air, whose launch plans with the Airbus A321XLR have been delayed after fresh delivery delays are occurring. The first aircraft was actually expected to be delivered in March. However, according to local media, that is now impossible due to fresh delivery delays. See, the airline was set to debut the plane on the 31st of March this year across their network, but is now being forced to postpone that debut, with April seeming to be the more likely timeframe for a first delivery and therefore deployment on their network. Wizz Air now expects to take on the new aircraft type around the 10th of April. This will result in the initially targeted service debut between London and Jeddah not going ahead with the A321XLR as planned. The route will still launch, don't get me wrong, but instead your A321LR will operate the service. Interestingly, to combat the delayed delivery of the XLR, Wizz Air is actually going to be adjusting overall passenger loads between the locations to actually make sure the LR can fly this route non-stop. Through this delayed delivery, Wizz Air has just become another airline struggling with your persistent delays affecting the industry. The XLR, remember, debuted in 2019 during a period where much emphasis was placed on the middle of the market sector and how Airbus and Boeing were going to look to address the demand that was being seen. While Boeing began encountering issues with its 737 MAX that would go on to affect its future, questions arose over how it would even therefore have the resources and general capability to move ahead with a dedicated replacement for types such as the 757 in the middle of the market sector. Meanwhile, at Airbus, there was a mutual feeling that the company was more primed for releasing a new middle of the market airliner, a next generation one, and it didn't have to be a clean clean sheet. While no requirements had been publicly set out, the likelihood was, again to confirm, it wasn't going to be a clean sheet. If they looked to produce a modest upgrade to customers, they would be able to get it to market far quicker and at a lower cost, which would give airlines the requirements they wanted sooner than waiting a decade for all the certification, production, design process, and more. And after much deliberation, Airbus decided to use the LR platform to stretch it further to an XLR, and since its birth, it has amassed considerable interest, bringing in hundreds of orders in the first week of its launch alone. The heart of the plane's appeal is its extended range, and that range is certainly visible for an airline like Wizz Air, which is now going to be able to fly between London, Gatwick, and Jeddah without a single stop with a full aircraft, and that's just one of the many fresh possibilities that were not previously seen in, say, an efficient manner, if you will. For other aircraft operators, those range capabilities paired with the high-capacity nature of it still being a single-aisle plane have opened up new chances to really dive into the transatlantic market, among other opportunities, say from Australia through to Asia, with a single-aisle plane, freeing up existing wide-bodies. So for Wizz Air, it's frustrating that their plane has been delayed a couple of weeks, but on the grand scheme of things, it is still a fantastic aircraft for them that they're very excited to have debut. Over to some frustrating, but some would say expected news. The situation at Air Mauritius appears to be worsening, where turmoil is facing the company and threatening its long-term survival in the industry. New local reporting in Mauritius following several fundamental changes to the business highlights an important crisis that is taking place. The struggles experienced are following years of what the airline describes as persistent hurt and management that were not equipped to run the airline. Air Mauritius has long struggled with finances and that management I speak of, and this has been a theme over the last decade. Current management knows that it is in a position that is going to be struggled to overcome, and substantial restructuring must occur, but just because you enter restructuring doesn't mean you're going to completely, say, fix all your existing problems. Increasing expenses have certainly been partially to blame for the struggles felt, a lack of focus on those rising expenses year over year, or really an attempt to actually lower them to a level that has been deemed manageable has compounded these woes alongside other things. Those other challenges range from route decisions that backfired on the business to selecting airports to actually serve, and upper management's moves resulted in losses that continued to increase to unsustainable levels. In 2020, you may recall that the carrier entered voluntary administration, a move aimed at repositioning it for the future. However, as executives at the company currently highlight, critical decisions actually backfired from a human resource standpoint as well. Other core decisions have included the retaining of older planes, but actually getting rid of some of their younger aircraft, which naturally are your more efficient ones. This is one of maybe the more peculiar decisions that is being highlighted by current management at Air Mauritius that has negatively affected finances. As a result, they can't really understand why they have gotten rid of some of the planes that were earmarked for their future, and now they find themselves once more fighting for their life, attempting to navigate turbulent air after many poor decisions are leading to a situation that is really a challenge. The Air Mauritius fleet has now 12 active aircraft, and 4 of which are the A350-900s. An interesting thing to also mention is the company's view of the A350. It's a fantastic plane, but they are definitely in the position where they feel they ordered too many units than what was required, and now they're in a position where they're just incurring loss after loss. There's a lot that needs to go right to keep Air Mauritius in the air, but at the very least, it does seem upper management is aware of this and is looking to try and navigate those challenges. Doesn't mean they will overcome them, but they're doing their best. That'll conclude today's aviation recap. Thank you very much for your support here on the channel. Take care, do be safe, and I'll see you tomorrow.
And we'll fly.